Good morning. It's been an interesting week. I don't care about the Democratic National Convention, the lame just, gesture of support. Um, it's clear by now that the Democratic Party is uh, destroying itself. Um, the only thing they have left going for them is massive voter fraud, and if that gets shut down, they're toast. They have no power anywhere. Because the truth of the matter is, nobody wants what they're selling. They're, and one of the things that they're selling is war abroad. And, that even though Obama came in and said, I'm going to bring the troops home and um, we're going to have the hope and peace and joy. He started more crap than anybody else before him. And none of the troops came home. Oh, we ended the war in Iraq, but kept tens of thousands of troops in country. When you end a war, but still have two divisions in the country that you were warring against, you're an occupying force. I thought we were going to win the hearts and minds of the Iraqis and, and change them to love and peace. But there is some actual love and peace going on. So we've got a sequence of events. A fertilizer store facility in Beirut explodes. And now, a couple weeks later, the United Arab Emirates finishes negotiating peace with Israel formally. Remember, many of the countries in the Middle East still are at war with Israel. They have not concluded peace after the 1972 hostilities, or even, uh, you know. So Israel would still be in their rights to conduct war operations against them. This includes Lebanon, Jordan, Syria, and um, and Iraq and Saudi Arabia. All of these countries were part of the uh, Arab-Israeli wars and did not conclude peace. This included Iran. So it was not ever a war crime for Israel in the middle of a war that is not concluded to engage in violent activities on the soil of the enemy country. So, if, as some people are now claiming, there was a missile that hit the arms manufacturing center in Beirut, Israel would be entirely within their rights to destroy that, even with the civilian casualties. Under the rules of law, war from World War II onward, total war, Israel would be as justified in flattening Beirut to the ground with a firebombing as we were in doing so to Dresden. They would be as justified to flatten it as we were to flatten Hiroshima and Nagasaki, as the United States was. And under a total war idea paradigm, that is exactly allowed. You can't say that the United States can do it in World War II, but Israel can't do it now. Israel has shown great restraint in foreign policy and in the prosecution of their wars. And how does the fake stream news respond to this peace agreement that, well, they rail against the United Arab Emirates for doing it. They say it's going to cause disruption in the area. Ah, yes, two people finally making peace after decades and decades is going to cause disruption. Goods flow up across borders, or armies do. I would prefer it be goods. Um, with peace between Egypt and Israel, and the United Arab Emirates and Israel, Israel can now buy locally sourced oil instead of having to ship oil from the United States, which was what they were doing. We were buying oil in the Middle East and shipping it here. They were buying oil in the US and shipping it there for many years. So what can we do? Well, there's even worse things. As soon as the deal went down and the news of it spread, the nutcases in the Gaza Strip decided, hey, we should shoot more missiles at Israel. And Israel responded by shelling the places where the missiles were coming from. And because, again, the Palestinians are at war with Israel, they would be justified in firebombing the Gaza Strip. They are at war. WAR. There is no peace between the Palestinians and the Israelis, despite 40 years of attempting to have it. Why? What did they do? Well, every time there was a peace agreement, in short order, the Palestinian Authority decided to attack again. You see, if you make a peace agreement and then you break it, you are back at war. That's the way it works. It doesn't work that you get to make a peace agreement, attack the people you were at peace with, and then say there's still a peace agreement. It doesn't work that way. Never has, never will. And in case you didn't notice, the Palestinians have been attacking Israel unrelentingly for 70 years. 70 years. With only minor breaks in the peace, in the war, in order to temporarily get enough stuff in to continue prosecuting the war. Israel has shown extreme patience with these people. More patience than is biblical, and more patience than I would have. Now, what would a John Shatke foreign policy be? John Shatke foreign policy would be hands off. If you do not disrupt American goods and shipping, and you do not disrupt American embassies and business, we've got no arguments. We've got nothing to say. We've got no skin in the game. We don't care. Go ahead and fight. We're not policemen. If somebody wants to make an empire, have at it, as long as you allow Americans to do what they want to do with their, in business. Have at it. I don't care who's sitting on the throne somewhere else. Not our problem. Likewise, no foreign aid. Make your own way. Private foreign aid, no problem. But we're not going to extort the American people in order to make your governments better off. If you'd like to engage American businesses in building up your country, have at it. We will happily come and do amazing work. I will take all of the existing laws against trading with different countries, and I will clear those out as best as I can. I will, of course, as president, have to uphold the laws, but any treaties that are preventing trade with any country, I will immediately abrogate. Any treaties that are interfering with trade with any country in any way, I will abrogate. America's policy will be 100% open, laissez-faire trade. And I don't care if your side is open and laissez-faire or not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. All you do is hurt your own people if you don't have an open, laissez-faire trade. And but by similar things, I will take all protectionist tariffs on incoming goods off. Americans are far and away the most productive people in the world. If you want to try and compete in this market, you are welcome to. And there are some things that other countries produce much more efficiently than Americans because of geography, like sugar and bananas and things like that. And I don't care if they do. If Americans can't produce something efficiently, then they shouldn't be producing it. Stop, full stop, end of period, end of sentence. I would bring home every single troop from every single base. If there is any equipment in those bases that the country wants to take for their own defense, sell it to them at a good price. Sunk costs, depending on how old the equipment is, all the way down to 10% of the cost to buy it. If it's 20 years old, like an M1A2, 20-year-old tank, great. We've got plenty more. You can have them 10% of the price, 100 million a piece, whatever it is. Go for it. Get it out of our. We don't need it. It's more expensive to bring it back than it's worth. You're going to need tanks. You get the tanks, you're going to need parts. You're going to need ammunition. Goods crossing the border. Planes. The remaining troops in America would be outfitted with the latest and or best equipment. America would, in my administration, no longer engage in military R&D funding, no longer engage in scientific funding. If people want to do those things, great. There is a market for military stuff, and the United States government is a customer. But in no other business does the customer pay for making your next product. So if you want to make a new car, a new tank, make a new tank, prototype, show it to us, and maybe we'll buy it. Maybe we won't. That's what entrepreneurial risk is. Go back to it. So in any case, peace is possible everywhere, among all peoples. The underlying principle is you attempt to make peace with everyone. If somebody does something violent, you give them a chance to make peace and make it right. If they don't, they have done the aggression. And the response should be complete and total destruction, as necessary to make them come to the table and sit down and say, stop it, please. And the response then should be, this is what we think it will take to change your country so you never do this again. That's what we did with Germany after World War II. That's what we need to do after a war. In the Bible, uh, the procedure is when you go out at a war, you come to a city, you say, make peace. And if they don't, then you say, all right, you made your bed. And you destroy them. Every man who can fight. And the only people that you put under total war were the people who abrogated hospitality. Who were conniving and said, yes, we'll make peace, and then attacked. Because once you've done that, once you've made an agreement and then you break it, you have shown yourself to be untrustworthy. Your agreements mean nothing. We cannot make an agreement with you. That is the situation with the Palestinians. That was the situation, and that they should never have ever stopped attacking them until they cried uncle. Speak softly, but carry a big stick, was what Teddy Roosevelt said. Sound advice. America would carry a big stick, even with only 2 aircraft carriers, or 4, depending on how much time it takes to refit one. You'd have need maybe 2 or 3 extras. And so you always have one operation. On each side, in each ocean. And that is how I would manage my foreign policy. Remember, write in John Shatke, and let's see peace.